Okay, let's talk about the astrology that is going on for the week of April 22nd through the 28th. It looks like a calm week when you just look at a list of transits for the week. All we really see is the full moon happening in Scorpio, which we analyzed in last week's video so that you could have it ahead of time. But we also see that Mercury is stationing direct, and this is a cause for celebration for a lot of us. I want to really acknowledge how rough Aries season has been with all of the planets that were in Aries and with all of the events that occurred in Aries, including this Mercury retrograde. So to everybody who's waiting for the chaos to subside, we are getting there. We are absolutely getting there. Venus is moving out, not this week, but next week, moving into her domicile. Mars will be coming in. We'll talk about that more in a later video for next week. But this week, Mercury is stationing direct. This is the third thing I would say that I was looking forward to as a sign of things calming down a little bit. We had the eclipse. We did have the conjunction between Uranus and Jupiter that occurred in Taurus, but it's a big energy. And the eclipse felt drawn out a little bit by the retrograde of Mercury being in the same sign. So now this kind of brings that prolonged or elongated eclipse hangover that you may be feeling to a close. And one of the things you might notice is that whatever you've been working on since April 1st, that has taken more steps than usual, that has needed more details than usual, that has had to play out multiple times to get it right. Whatever you've been working on will get refined and finalized, likely before May 14th, when Mercury finally does get out of this range of degrees that they've been moving back and forth through. And I'm going to show you exactly what this looks like. So I want to pull up my screen to share with you the Luna software. And this is a web-based software, but it is software and it's really cool. So this is the day that Mercury goes direct, and we can find Mercury over here in Aries. And just looking at this, if you're familiar with looking at charts, you will notice that there are some numbers here that are the same, some things that are on the same number of each of the signs, and that we are still kind of in this full moon phase of the moon still being in Scorpio, so still in her full phase after the exact full moon that occurred a couple days earlier. And so what we're seeing here is Mercury being the one who gets the most of our attention because Mercury is now going direct. But I also want to point out that this moon here is just separating. So even a couple hours before Mercury goes direct, the moon will have opposed this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that is happening in Taurus. This is something that might make that conjunction feel more personal. This might be when we notice some more things happening in the now, rather than just the initiation of a cycle that would have started on Saturday, the 20th, when they had their perfection of their conjunction. Now they are still on that same degree together. So the conjunction is very much still in effect. And the moon is witnessing it and bringing it down to us. This is when we might notice some events that really help us understand the hallmark of what this Uranus and Jupiter cycle over the next 12 years or so is going to be showing us. And so one thing to keep in mind is that at the same time, we are also looking at Mercury over here, who you will notice also shares a degree number with another placement. I say placement, not planet, because this is the north node. So this is the node that tells us roughly where eclipses are occurring at that given year or at that given time. The eclipse this year occurred at 19 degrees of Aries, and so the node has moved backwards, as the nodes do, has moved backwards to 15 degrees and has met Mercury there. And so what we're seeing now is that Mercury is stationing direct on the north node, which could let us see things a little bit more amplified around that direct station. When a planet is stationary, sometimes it's kind of like when you're moving something and you put a pin in it and then twist and pivot and move in the other direction. So this might be a very prominent day for news headlines or for making sure that you're just taking care of travel, of connection, of communication, of the way that you are making connections or thinking. One very big theme that has come out of this Mercury retrograde for a lot of people that I've talked to, and myself included, has been really taking care and having good stewardship over your mental health. I think a lot of our thoughts have tended to impulsively get away with us through this Mercury retrograde since April 1st in particular. And so just be very cognizant of the way that you're speaking to yourself in your internal dialogue during this time, which may have been a theme for you for the past few weeks, but continue to do that. It's a really great habit to have. And so another thing that we want to talk about is, of course, now that the moon is full and waning, we are dealing with a waning moon. So when we talk about what kind of folk magic might we be pairing with this astrology for the week, one of the things we can think about is what you can do under a waning moon. The moon will wane in Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, and then Aquarius for this part of the week. And then next week, it will continue to wane in other signs as it reaches Aquarius, where we will have our last quarter moon phase, and then wane even further until the next new moon, which will be with Taurus, which is actually quite lovely. And I will do a video about that as well later when it's more relevant. Right now, we're thinking about the moon waning towards that last quarter. So this is the disseminating moon phase. That's what we're seeing here. So it's about really letting go or even sharing some of the things that you've gained clarity on. So if you've gained clarity on something in your life and you're excited about it, this is where you can put it into action and really make things happen. If you've gained clarity on something in your life and you're like, there are things that I can remove and let go of to make space for better abundance or more in my life, this is a perfect time for that. So in folk magic, we call this shedding, or you'll notice the word banishing. Banishing sounds like it's malefic, but sometimes when you're banishing negative thoughts or banishing negative influences, it actually is a good thing. So if you want to think about shedding as a form of banishing from your life these things that no longer serve you, that do not serve your highest good, your highest purpose, or your way of connecting with other people in the highest and best way, that is another way to think about this. In the Modern School of Ancient Wisdom Patreon, I do share actual spells and charms that we can do in accordance with these things. I encourage you to check it out. It's really fun in there, especially when you're on the student study tier, where we actually do live lessons on astrology and folk magic as well. So if you want to dig in deeper, there is a space for that, and I would be thrilled to be a part of your journey. So this is what we're seeing this week. The hallmark is Mercury stationing direct, that just happens to share a day with the moon opposing this imposing Jupiter and Uranus conjunction that's occurring in Taurus right now as well. The sun is in Taurus now, so happy solar return to all of my fellow Taurus suns and Scorpio moons. If you're a Scorpio moon, this is your lunar return, the beginning of your new month. I have that as well. So welcome to all of us here. So that is everything I think I wanted to share for this week. I really recommend focusing on your comfort, focusing on your recovery, focusing on things that make you feel like if you feel like you've been pulling too tight on something, to let it go before you pull something too far. It's kind of like when a muscle is wound too tight and you're like, if I could just push that one more inch. If you did, you might actually injure yourself. This is a great week for conscious recovery, whatever that looks like for you, whether that's in ecstatic dance, whether that's in some kickboxing to let out some tension, whatever that is for you. I hope that you do well with it. I hope that it works for you. And I hope you find comfort and rest and all of the positivity in this week that is there for you.